So, how bad are things at Dismal Disney? Well, pretty bad. So bad, in fact, that it looks like Uncle Bob is desperate enough to try to bring back Robert Downey Jr. to Marvel. Because let me tell you, he's the only one that's going to be able to call this shot. I don't think Feige has a say. I think that they're going to be forced to this moment. But how can that be? I think I remember a story saying that this was not possible. And it wasn't that long ago. Hi, folks. Welcome to today's Dismal Disney story, where we're going to talk about Robert Downey Jr. and a story that should be familiar to you all from December 4th, coming from ABC News themselves. Why did I choose ABC? Well, they're part of the Disney company. So if you can't get the truth from ABC News, which is the Disney company, about Disney, well, I think we have a problem here. Anyway, let's fire on to the next segment here. Robert Downey Jr. isn't coming back as Tony Stark. Marvel Studios president says this. This is Kevin Feige saying that they won't touch that moment again. And again, it wasn't that long ago, December 4th, 2023. They even let the GMA folks at this one. And as we go through this story, it says here, Robert Downey Jr. won't return as Tony Stark. Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige says amid rumors that the original Avengers team is reassembling. Well, we've heard that for a while, especially a lot recently. But in a new Vanity Fair cover story that dives deep into Robert Downey Jr.'s journey from Hollywood bad boy to box office superhero, to what many believe will be his third Oscar nomination, which it was. And of course, he did win. Of course, this is an old story, December 4th. So we're going to keep that moment and not touch that moment again. Obviously, this is the moment where Tony Stark passes away. We already said tearful goodbyes on the last day of shooting. Avengers Endgame co-director Joe Russo added, everybody had moved on emotionally. So, yeah, I'm just going to say they're pretty definitive here, right? Wouldn't you agree? So they talk all about the history here and the fact that, how he netted the job was a little unusual. He was in desperate need of a comeback, and Jon Favreau helped out with that. And I have to tell you, one of the best movies ever was the 2008 Marvel movie Ironman. And it did launch an entire franchise, which culminated with the Avengers and then kind of dwindled into nothingness as the successive films just continued to disappoint and the television products basically weighed things down like an anchor. But that may not be true anymore, or at least that's what a couple of people are suggesting. And we've heard a lot of ridiculous rumors lately. This may be one of them. But like George Lucas returning to Star Wars. Well, this may not be as dramatic as there might be a way to write him back into the story. But let's take a look at it for sure. See, the Russo brothers were reacting to Robert Downey Jr. possibly returning as Iron Man. And they came out and said, we closed that book. Why is all of this being out there now? Because, well, I'll say it. Disney tends to throw a lot of spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks. And then they'll grab those strands and try to burp them into a project so at least somebody might be interested in seeing it. The problem is that their reaction time is often very poor, and their performance at making those things happen is even poorer. And again, this is from our friends over at That Park Place. Thank you, John F. Trent. Keep up the good work, bud. So Joe and Anthony Russo, the directors behind Avengers, shared their thoughts on Robert Downey Jr. being open to the possibility to return as Tony Stark, a.k.a. Iron Man, in the cinematic universe. Of course, here's our buddy Joe Russo there. But Downey Jr., or Robert Downey Jr., informed Esquire earlier this month that he would happily return to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. He said, it's too integral a part of my DNA. That role chose me. He also added, and look, I always say never, ever bet against Kevin Feige. It is a losing bet. He's the house. He will always win. That's some flowery words, almost like he is auditioning for a job, or at least indicating that he would be interested in it. I can't imagine what his salary would be. I would imagine it would be quite extravagant, considering he's been the central focal point of the Avengers since this film in 2008, Iron Man. Back when, well, Disney didn't own or control Marvel Entertainment. So, speaking with Games Radar at the Sands International Film Festival in Scotland, Anthony Russo reacted to Downey's comments, telling the outlet, "I don't know how they would do it. I don't know what the road to that would be." And then he laughed. His brother Joe added, "I mean, we closed the book on that, so it would be up to them to figure out how to reopen it." Both of those statements indicate to me that neither of these gentlemen are interested in going back to the Avengers or Marvel or maybe even an Iron Man project, and I don't blame them. I think the only person that could bring him back to life and do him justice would be Jon Favreau with a hand-picked team and no interference from Kevin Feige and the mouse. I don't think any of those things would happen. I don't think a handful of those things could happen, but it's my opinion. So there are numerous rumors and reports that Marvel Studios does indeed plan to bring Downey Jr. back into the fold. In fact, Downey himself seemed to tease it back in January. Wow, just a month after Disney's news organization, who, well, doesn't get a lot of things right anyway, said that this wasn't ever happening again. I'll keep going. But anyway, he teased it back in January during an appearance on Rob Lowe's podcast. They're friends, so that makes sense. About 14 minutes into that podcast, Lowe begins to chide Downey Jr. for seemingly checking his phone while they're recording. Lowe asks, is some Marvel stuff? I'm correcting that word for him. Are you going to break some stories here? And Downey Jr. responds, not just yet. So Downey's comments came in the wake of a rumor that WDW Pro, back in November, that Downey Jr. had negotiated a return as Tony Stark to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now, wouldn't this be apropos that Pro got this information right way back when, or at least got the rumor, got the leak, got whatever form of a story in his lap a month before, obviously, Disney's own news organization was getting it wrong? So the scooper, WDW Pro, cited two previous reports from November. First, in November, Variety's Tatiana Siegel reported that her sources within Marvel Studios informed her there had been talks to bring back the original gang for the Avengers movie. This would include reviving Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man and Scarlett Johansson's Black Widow, both of whom were killed off in Endgame. However, she added, but the studio hasn't yet committed to the idea. If it were able to bring those actors back, it wouldn't come cheap. No kidding. Plus, they got to bring that Chris Evans guy back as Captain America. Anyway, shortly after that report, My Time to Shine Hello, another scooper, claimed that Robert Downey Jr. had already agreed to return as Iron Man at the beginning of the month. Once again, that's like three things in November telling you that this was likely, probable, possible, pick one of those adjectives. And then you have Disney's increasingly inaccurate news organization getting it wrong. So, or I guess it's okay if you work for the Disney company to lie to your news organization. Seems weird. Anyway, the user simply shared to X that RDJ already agreed to come back and then gave us a picture. That's handy. After citing these two sources, Pro shared, according to my sources, this is true. Robert Downey Jr. has indeed signed on to Marvel. Well, Pro's got a good track record. I know. I audited him. He later added, we think that this is an intent to is because we don't think he's necessarily been given a script, although a pitch has probably been made to him. We believe that to be absolutely true. The idea is also that Robert Downey Jr. will return for 3 movies. My goodness, the guy needs to stay in shape. Somebody tell him to eat some protein. Some animal protein, that is. Anyway, Kevin Feige previously informed Vanity Fair in December that the company had no plans for a return to the role. So now we have Vanity Fair and ABC's increasingly inaccurate news organization saying the same thing. He said, we're going to keep that moment and not touch that moment again. We all worked very hard for many years to get to that, and we would never want to magically undo it in any way. Well, there you go. Marvel Studios producer Steven Broussard told Gizmodo back in February of 2023, well, I think one of the meta-narratives of Phase 4 was about new characters. Well, Phase 4 failed spectacularly. It just got worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And so did the TV products, for the most part. Although some people like Loki, for whatever reason, it didn't do anything to help future stories for Marvel. It kind of wrecked them all. So if you look at, like, Cassie, Lang in Quantumania getting a suit, and Kate Bishop and Hawkeye, again, they're the chick Avengers, the new Avengers or whatever. New characters being introduced like Jack and Werewolf by Night. Well, I thought that was going to be hidden away. I could be wrong. After these first 10 years of Marvel storytelling, torches are being passed, like with Robert Downey Jr. no longer being on the table and stuff like that. So it was kind of like a new generation stepping to the forefront, which, again, has always happened in the comics, he added. Yeah, and then they reboot and go back to the original when those other things don't work out so well, which, if you take a look at Phase 4 and what is the beginnings of Phase 5 or part of Phase 5 or whatever you want to call it, it's not looking good in the future either. So when asked about a possible return, Downey informed GQ in October of 2021, I have alighted for now. Real world to save, but never say never. So he was up for it all the way back then. He told Digital Spy back in 2019, we had to get off. We opted to, and knew it was part of the job to get off the bus while it rolled on to other destinations. So basically indicating that, he was sold the same bill of goods as everybody else. He continued, there's something very sobering about it. I'm glad he and I will be there to welcome others as they retire their jerseys. Interesting. So one of the reasons in the thumbnail I put what I did, which is the question mark, RDJ back, is because we don't rightly know. We have some heavy-duty hints and even more this week, and like I said, Pro doesn't seem to get a lot of things wrong. I know this, Disney gets a lot of things wrong, and they've got a lot of things wrong a lot lately, considering that they still, as of this moment, as of this recording, haven't exceeded 2% of the global box office for the entire year of 2024. They're far, far behind, with only a handful of films to try to play catch-up, starting very soon with the Apes movie and moving forward from there with Wolverine, Deadpool, and all the other things that come after. I don't really see a monstrous film coming this year, but maybe you do. Anyway, what do you think? You think we're getting RDJ back? Do you think that Pro's right? Do you think that Disney's dismal all the way around, including their news division? And do you think that the only way to revive the MCU is to go back to the original formula with the original characters that were the winners? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments section below. And if this is your first time here or your 1,000th and you're not subscribed, you see that little red button down there that says subscribe, please click that. Even if you have to sign up for an account, turn it to gray. You'll make my day and you'll help me get almost to that amazing number of 25,000, which I'm desperately trying to get to by June at the latest. I was trying to push my numbers way up to 50K by the end of the year. And I can only do that with your help. So take that time and hit the like button on the way out too. Be sure to take care of yourself, take care of others, and until next time, see ya.